Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.
Razaban IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me, I've got my man, Mr. Wardley, Fabio Wardley, that is. How are you doing, Fabio?
Hey, I'm good. How's things, bro? How are we?
I'm good. It's quite depressing when it gets dark at 4 p.m, I must say.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? I got home from the gym maybe about 3-ish, and I could see the light going already, and I was like, this is nuts.
Obviously, you want to catch up with the boxing that happened over the weekend. But before we talk about that, just very quickly, the government announced last week that fans can now start attending sporting events indoors and outdoors with limited capacity. I believe 1,000 people potentially for the Anthony Joshua fight, which is next week. Potentially 1,000 people for the Anthony Yard fight this week. That could take place. I'm not sure whether there's an announcement just yet, but a good sign that we're starting to see a bit of audience back in the stadiums.
Yeah, of course. It's a good step in the right direction, I think. And I think this step is the biggest one out of all of them. The jump from 0 to however many it is, I think is the first one to kind of get all the teething problems out of the way, how it's going to be done, how it's going to be run, how people are going to be looked after, health and safety, whatever else. So I think once they do these few little pilots, they work out how it's going to be done and stuff. I think then after that, it's going to be much easier for us to get to them higher numbers.
Does that make a difference? You know, you've been in the bubble twice now, right? And I know you say fighters are fighters and you lace on a pair of gloves and you just get on with it. But surely, you know, that ring walk, the music, the fan pumping and cheering, surely that makes a bit of a difference now?
Oh yeah, of course. There's no, and like credit to like Matchroom and with Frank Warren and stuff. With the shows they've done their best to try and replace that atmosphere in different ways and whatever ways they can. But it's just, well, it is what it is. It's irreplaceable. You can't do anything about it. It's just too unique, and it has its own feel to it, which you just can't do anything for. There's no replacement for just walking out of there in front of thousands of people who are cheering for you, maybe even booing for you, whatever. But the energy, regardless, is there and you can feel it. And no amount of lights, cameras, I don't know, posters, whatever, could just replace that, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully we'll get more than 1,000 over the coming months as these cases start to decrease. But you just never know what happens. We might be talking in about 2 months' time about lockdown 3. You just never know.
Yeah.
Hopefully
you just never know what's going to go on, do you?
Absolutely. Fabio, great British fight took place on Saturday night. It was a great fight, especially for hardcore fans, because it was a guy who had an unbelievable jab and a fighter that normally comes forward and throws combinations, but was trying to work out how to break that jab down. Let's talk before the fight. When it was announced, who did you kind of have favourite for that fight?
I was, in everything I did, I was really split down the middle. And like, if you absolutely forced me, I'd have edged it the tiniest bit towards Daniel, because I just thought the more youthful man, the younger, fresher guy, and a bit sharper as well, like in terms of speed and the way he gets his punches off and stuff, I'd have just edged it. I'd have been like, I don't know, 55% to 45% Daniel. But that was where I'd have gone with it. But I just think there was no way to kind of quantify how solid Joe's chin was, as well. That combined with his jab was just those two things together. And we've never seen it. That's the other thing as well, is that we've never seen either of them have to do those type of things based off the type of opponents they've had. They've all pretty much walked through them relatively easy, not too many issues. So that's why I think there were so many people either on the fence or split one way or the other, because you hadn't seen enough of either person in those challenging fights to know really what they had deep down.
A lot of people during the fight had the fight very, very close up until round 9. Either way, it could have gone to Joe or Daniel, other than that one judge unfortunately, who saw 8 rounds towards Dubois, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But what can we say more about judges at the moment in the UK? How did you have it close as well up until the 9th?
Yeah, I had it close. To me, I had Joe by a few, by maybe 2, something like that. I had him. I had it close, but I still had him up, and there was still, I think, maybe 3 or 4 rounds to go, something like that. So it was still close, but I thought Joe started well. I thought Daniel it was a bit of a shock to the system for him for them early few rounds. He was trying to figure stuff out, and the usual things he was doing wasn't working. And it took him quite a bit of time to kind of figure out a plan B and speak with his corner and stuff. And then came out round 3, 4, 5, 6-ish, got into a bit of a rhythm, which is nice. And then I think that kind of obviously part and part with the eye and just the relentless kind of pace and pressure that Joe brings is just kind of wore him through. And as those later rounds were coming on, you could really see him just start to slow and kind of get a bit weary.
The jab lands in the 10th round. He takes a knee. Did that catch you out of surprise?
Yeah, a touch, a bit, because the eye was pretty much closed already. And then for him to just take a knee off a jab was a bit confusing. I was unaware. I wasn't sure if the jab did actually rock him, or he was a bit stunned, or he did just feel it. It felt funny, and he took the knee. In the moment, I was a bit like, "What's going on?" I was a bit confused. But yeah, it was a strange one to see, and I think it was good that it added a bit more kind of drama to it, to the whole thing, and some more speculation.
Fabio, he's getting a lot of stick at the moment from a lot of people, boxers, ex-boxers, fans, the public. Very, very young. He's 23 years old. I'm sure if he recovers, he'll go on to achieve great things. But is it unfair for him to receive the treatment that he's getting?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because, well, ultimately, I think in the most part, it's unfair. Yeah, I think because if you take most of those people that are giving him stick or whatever else, and you line them up and say, look, this is the same situation, you're the same person, and don't get me wrong, I know a lot of the people that have said kind of negative things towards them, and I know that they would go out on their shield, so to speak, but it's a difficult thing to say when that question is posed to you right in front of you. And especially with some of those people that when they were going through those type of moments in those careers, they were 3/4 of the way through, at the back end, they'd been around for a while. Someone like Daniel, he's only not that far in, he's a great prospect for the scene regardless. Imagine if he did go all the way through with it, and then, okay, gets to the end of the fight, he loses on points, whatever, and then it comes out maybe a few weeks later that damage has seriously caused him a problem and he can't ever box again. And we've just lost a huge prospect, someone who's committed their life to the sport, off just a few extra rounds. So we got 4 more rounds out of him, when realistically we could have got near on hundreds if they'd taken the time to recover, come back again. So it's a difficult one when your career is literally hanging in the balance. And I think, if anything, with me, I'm a lot more sympathetic to this situation because I've had that exact injury. I've fractured my own eye, and I know the pain, I know the feeling, I know the discomfort, and I also know the little voice in the back of your head that says to you, oh shit, this could be serious. Like, if this goes, I'm gone. Like, and I've said in other interviews and things before, like, fighters get injuries or whatever in fights, like their hands, their wrist, their elbow, their like ankle with hay and whatever else, and they can carry on, because although it's not great for your body to carry on, obviously 9 times out of 10 is probably not going to end your career, maybe set you back 6 months to a year, whatever, but you can always bounce back off those things. But things like your eye and stuff, and you only have to look at something like Anthony Ogogo with obviously a detached retina and how much that messed up his career and his dreams, that it can be seriously bad. So I think when you stand there with the scales and kind of weigh up the pros and cons of it, I guess ultimately to him, he made the right decision.
Do you think he was almost had no choice? Because if you look at those last 4 or 5 rounds, when the eyes start to swell up, he carried on fighting through that pain initially. It wasn't like it just bruised up and he gave up or quit, but he continued to fight through the pain. Do you feel like the corner should have intervened at any time? Because we kind of saw the instructions in the corner. We saw the kind of work they were doing on the eye in the corner. Don't know if people thought that was the right way to do things, but do you think the corner could have just prevented and supported him by just pulling him out and make it easy for him?
Yeah, I think that takes a lot of pressure off him as a fighter. At least that way, you almost can use that as the reason, even if deep down in your heart you want it out anyway. If your corner are the ones to pull you out, then at least they can take the brunt of it, and it doesn't really matter so much. But when you have to pull yourself out and things, then I guess you have to ask questions a bit about. It is a difficult one, because the thing is with Daniel, he was still definitely in the fight, still definitely there. Like you say, most of the scorecards of everyone in boxing and around were pretty even. So at any point, he could have still won the fight, and he's obviously still got massive punching power. So at any point, he could have pulled just a wonder shot out and got away with it, kind of thing. So there's always that chance. I think it's not completely clear cut, because it wasn't like he was getting absolutely battered and there was no chance of him winning. There was always a chance, but I think his corner needs to be maybe slightly more compassionate in future, and just, especially for someone like him who is so young, that they maybe need to look out for him. That's their job ultimately. That's what they're there for. They're there to look after you. And I don't think they even had a conversation about it. I can't remember listening too much in the corner, even saying to him like, "How's the eye? How do you feel?" Or "What can you carry on?" It's like there was no kind of they didn't even touch the subject with him. They just sat him down and cracked on with a bit of work they did on with it, and started firing instructions at him. And I think then that's where they maybe need to have a conversation with him, at least, just to kind of find out where your fighter is in his own head, how he feels about it, and get his views on it. Because ultimately, they all work for Daniel, so that his best interest should be in their front for their mind, and they should at least have that conversation with him, I think, to kind of figure out where things are. So yeah, I guess it's slightly disappointing that they didn't do it on behalf of him, but I guess on the other side, they were probably thinking that he's still in the fight and they don't want to ruin his chances. But then it goes back to what I was saying of, you may get through on today, but what damage does that do for you later in life?
And a good example to give is obviously Kell Brook. When Kell fought Triple G, his corner pulled him out of the fight, and no one gave Kell stick that he gave up or he quit. His corner took full responsibility. But then when he went in with Spence, yes, the eye looks like it was the opposite eye. It was a different eye. But obviously he took the knee, and everyone then said he quit. So you can see the both contrasts in action, whether you take a knee or whether your corner pulls you out.
Exactly, that's the thing. And I think it goes back to, even if they had the conversation with him to say, he went, look, even just to say, if he was in the corner and he went, look, it's bad, give me a round, give me 2 more rounds, let me see what I can get from this. If not, then just pull it, kind of thing. And then at least you've had that conversation, you're clear on what you're doing and where you're going, kind of thing. But without any of that whatsoever, I think that would have made him more relaxed and more comfortable with that situation if his corner said to him, look, we're going to give you a round or 2, see what you've got, see how it looks. If not, we're getting you out of there. Because I think it makes him more nervous, because he almost feels like he's there on his own. And if you're in that situation, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to take a knee the next round. In your head, you're thinking, shit, I've got 4 more rounds of this. Oh, I've got 5 more rounds. I've got 3 more rounds, whatever. You're just thinking about how long here you're going to be taking that punishment and how much potential damage you can cause. The decision to take a knee is, to me, it always seems like a split-second thing where you just go, you know what, I'm out. It's not something you plan in advance, really, or you think, oh, I'm going to do it next round. It's just that next punch lands, that one bit of pain more than the rest or whatever, and you just go, you know what, I'm out. So I think if his corner would have spoken to him, they could have come up with some sort of, I don't know, just a discussion or plan or whatever. It would have relaxed the situation a bit more.
Obviously, everyone's talking about Daniel Dubois, but let's not take away how good Joyce was from round 1. That jab, as much as a lot of people might think it wasn't, is it that effective? Yes, it was one of the best jabs that Joe has produced in a fight consistently throughout that I've seen. I've seen many of Joe's fights, and he consistently threw that jab on target and moved his head like left to right very, very often to really put Dubois off. But how good was Joe?
It was fantastic. That's the thing. I think a lot of this is getting caught up in Daniel, his eye, him obviously taking the knee and whatever else. But I think a majority of this needs to be focused on Joe and just the fantastic performance that he put on. Like, it was like shocking to watch almost, like, of how just commanding he was with that jab, his presence obviously in the ring, and how he was just, he never seemed phased. He always seemed pretty in control, pretty comfortable with everything that was going on. And it's that, I guess it's that thing that you just can't buy experience, because the thing is, I think that was the big separator there, is that Joe had been through so much in terms of experience and fights, and when he was an amateur and whatever else, he's been through all those problems before, and he's solved them 10 times over. So he knows what to do when they come up again. And I think with Daniel, some questions were posed to him which he didn't have the answer for, and I think that created a bit of panic in him, and probably relayed a bit back to his corner team and stuff as well, and it just became very unsteady for him. But I think a lot of the focus just needs to go on to Joe and how well he did, and as much as he gets a lot of stick of saying how slow he is and how easy he is to hit and whatever else, but ultimately he used all of his strengths, and they showed on the night.
No, absolutely. We wish Joe all the best for whatever's next for him, potentially a WBO shot if that belt becomes vacant. And obviously for Daniel, we wish him health with that eye, and hopefully can come back strong whenever he's fit and ready to.
Yeah, most definitely.
Fabio Wardley, IFL TV, thank you very much.
No worries. Cheers, Raz. Thank you, mate, always.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.